In this parsha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram Avinu about the future Goliath of Klal Yisrael. The pasuk says, Hashem says, "Vayihi Hashem Shlovi v'tardema nafla al Avram." That Avram was put in a tardema, in a slumber, and in that deep sleep, in the tardema, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram about the future Goliath, the future tsaris of Klal Yisrael, that they'll go to a land that's not their own. So the question is, why is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told that message dafka in a state of sleep? What does that tell us for us? So obviously it goes without saying that Klal Yisrael was going through a very difficult time. Very, very difficult kufa. It's hard to function, to be honest with you. And the question is, what exactly is our mentality supposed to be? What exactly, what's the avoda right now? So this is something I've spoken about in the past. Shabbos HaGadol, I think last year we talked about this. But it definitely is kedai to chazer, especially in the light of what we're going through. Rav Kluger has an essay, as a mimer. Rav Kluger talks about how there's two different ways that a Jew can go through difficulties, two different ways to be mamtik dinim. He describes these two ways, symbolized by the two different minhagim when it comes to eating the challah around Rosh Hashanah. We know that around Rosh Hashanah time, the minhag is to put honey on the challah. Now, most opinions also say to have salt. So if Kluger says there's two minhagim amongst Chassidim about how to put the salt and the honey. One opinion is that you put it on the same side. You put the salt and then you put the honey. And the other opinion is you put it on the opposite sides of the challah. So while this might look like a very small thing, Rav Kluger reads a lot of depth into this concept. You see, the first approach that a Jew can employ when he's going through difficulty is to try to find the positive within this situation. Gamzul tova, find the silver lining. See, that's salt. Salt is unpleasant, but you put honey on the same side. And that's where you look in your life and you look in what's going on with Klal Yisrael and try to find the positive. Try to find the silver lining. Now that approach is doable many times. It's an option. But I don't think we could employ that here. What we're going through right now is something you can't find the positive in. It's very, very difficult, especially a positive that would warrant such darkness. So what do you do if you can't? You can't live in Gamzul tova. The other approach, says Rav Kluger, is to put the honey and the salt on opposite sides, which is to not necessarily look at your situation and find the positive. But the avodah is to close your eyes and to imagine and to place yourself at a time when all of this will be over. See, there's coming a time, and it's coming very soon, where all the suffering will end. And I don't mean a ceasefire, and I don't just mean the hostages coming home. They should come home safely right now. Mashiach is coming, and all the suffering, all those 1,400 Yidden coming back, and all the suffering of Klal Yisrael will end. Sometimes the pain is so great that you can't necessarily find the positive, but you have to close your eyes and have such faith and such emunah that you could sort of place yourself in that time. Rabbi Nachman in Zakutinsky Simon Samach Hey, he says that when a person is in pain, often what you do is you close your eyes. That's usually what happens. It's a natural reaction. You close your eyes when you're in pain. You stub your toe, you close your eyes. He says what you're really trying to do is to squint, to see that place, to see that time period where everything will be clear. That's the avodah right now. The avodah is not necessarily to try to find the positive, and it's not necessarily just have simcha. Because you have simcha when Klal Yisrael suffering. The avodah is to have such faith, to have such emunah, to have such faith that Mashiach is going to come, to have such faith that at some point this will all be understood. And right now we don't understand anything. And right now we can't see that clarity, but to close your eyes and to place yourself, to close your eyes and to sort of look past what's happening now, and to look where it's headed. The pasuk says by Avram Avinu, "Vayisa eino vayar," that Avram Avinu looked up, he lifted his eyes, he was able to look past the suffering of the present, to see this amazing future, that this darkness will lead to the greatest light this world has ever seen. You don't put the salt and honey on the same side. Put it on opposite sides. You leave that suffering, and it's not because, and the avodah of closing your eyes and trying to sort of leave your present state for a little bit, to put yourself where everything is going to be okay. You're not doing this because you're callous and you're ignoring the suffering of Klal Yisrael. It's adarabah. It's due to the immense feeling that you have. You're feeling it too much. You're feeling it so much that in order to sort of get through this, you have to close your eyes. And you have to place yourself, and do this during davening. The Shema say, I know this is going to be okay. Mashiach will come. Yesh tikva lacharisech. V'shavvanim l'gvulam. We say that when Golus is over, David HaMelech says, B'shuv Hashem es shvius Sion. Those captives will be returned. Hayinu kecholmim. All of Golus will be a dream. All of Golus, you're going to look back and say, that felt like a dream. It didn't feel real. You're going to look back on it and say, I can't even remember that craziness. See, Avram Avinu was told about all the suffering in a state of dream, in a tardema, in a slumber, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give him the tools to be mamtik it, the tools to get out of it, the tools to get out of that suffering. Is hayinu kecholmen, is to believe that there's going to be a time where we're going to look back at this and say, this was just a dream. We're going to look back at this and say, we can't even remember, we can't even realize that was real. That's the avodah right now, is to dive in and have such faith that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of Klal Yisrael. To realize that it's going to be okay. Vayaris hamakom mirachai, to see that place from a distance. Rav Akiva personified this. It's not kedai, because we've spoken about this many times. Rav Akiva seeing foxes coming out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. A tremendously painful experience. And everyone's crying. What does Rav Akiva do? He laughs. Because Rav Akiva was able, it doesn't mean that he didn't feel the pain. He had such emunah, he had such faith that Mashiach is going to come. He had such faith that the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt, that he was able to place himself in that future state. For a moment, he was able to leave his present in order to go to that future. To get from that tardema to hayinu kecholmen. Now, let's end up with a Maisa. The Maisa I share very often. It's brought down by many Sfarim. Rabbi Shemayr quotes it in a Sefer Maseches Tainis. But there was a Choshev Yid in the times of the Arizal. His name was Rav Avram Halevi. And his mitzvah that he focused on was Tikkun Chatzos. He would wake up, get a lot of neighbors to come to go to shul, to cry over the Churban. The Arizal said that he was a Gilgal of Yirmiyah. So this Choshev Yid became very ill. And the Arizal said to him, the truth is, this illness will take your life. But there's one thing I could give you an eitzah. And that is, if you go to the Kotel, and you daven Tikkun Chatzos there, if you see the Shechina, if you see an image of Hashem, whatever that means, you'll be able to live more years. But if not, then this is your time. Sister Avram Alevi goes, and he prepares himself for days, and he goes to the Kotel, and he starts to cry, and he starts to daven. And he sees at the top of the Kotel some image, looks like to him like a woman wearing black clothing. And he obviously recognized this as a message of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's pain in Golus. He's wearing black. And he starts to cry, and he passes out. And he says that while he's lying there, he looks up and he sees what looks like that woman drying his tears. And she said the following: Avram al tivka. Avram, stop crying. Yesh tikva lacharisech. There's hope. Shavu vanim legvulam. Your children will come back. He went back to the Arizal, and the Arizal said, "Oh, I see that you'll be okay." And he lived another 22 years. That's the avodah right now. It's al tivka. For moments of the day, stop crying. To place yourself in that time period of hope. They're all going to come back. The soldiers will be successful. The hashers will be returned, Bez Hashem, B'Karav. And ultimately, Mashiach is coming. This is the last Golus. The Golus Achritis is about to turn. This is Parashas Golus Yishmael. We're going to listen to Sari Meinu. Gareishis Hamazais Vesbena. Sari Meinu was right. Get rid of this Yishmael. Kadosh Baruch Hu should get rid of them Legamri. Eretz Yisrael should be purified Legamri. Finally purified. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Kol Hashatayim Asarish Mabakayel Hashem should heed his own advice and listen to Sari Meinu. Gareishis Hamazais Vesbena. Kick them out. Yeshtik v'lachariseh v'shavanu hu meher b'menu amen.